YouTube, welcome to Geek Shh. All right, so this is not a tech news channel, but it's a few topics that correlate with the type of things that I post on here. So let's go ahead and cover them. First thing first, we got to talk about the iPhone 16 launch. Now, first, it was reported that it was going to be on the 10th by popular leaker Mark Gurman, but turns out it ended up being on the 9th. Now, it went for pre-sale on the 13th. I am with T-Mobile, so I logged on the T-Mobile app around 7:55 a.m. and to my surprise, it was available for purchase. So I started the purchase process, and by 7:58, it was a done deal. My order was in. Now, I logged in to rent it a few minutes later and heard a lot of people complaining about not being able to go through with their purchase for whatever reason. But I just want to let y'all know I didn't have any of those issues, probably because I logged on 5 minutes early. Now, they charged my card on Wednesday the 18th. They shipped it out the next day, which was that Thursday. And by Friday at 5 p.m., I had it in my hands. So that was pretty smooth. Now, would I go through this process again if I upgrade my phone again in the future? Absolutely not. Because around 3 p.m. on the 20th, I actually called the store, the corporate T-Mobile store, and they said, we got plenty of them in stock. Come on down and pick one up. And that was at 3 p.m. So obviously there's no lines. And, you know, next time around, I'll just get up at 8 a.m. and just go pick up my phone instead of having to wait for the UPS truck to finally get there. All right. So on the screen, you see my unboxing of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And this is part of my love-hate relationship with Apple. This is part of my issues I have with Apple. You couldn't give me a power brick? All I get is a USB-C cable? This is an iPhone 16 Pro Max. It costs $1,200. Why on planet Earth can't I get a power brick? That's part of my love-hate relationship with Apple and why I don't fool with them. They didn't even give me the stickers. That's crazy. Anyway, I'm going to have a 1-month review of it because I went from the iPhone 8 Plus to the 16. So after 1 month, I'm going to give you a review and let you know what I think about it. So let's get on to the next topic. So, all right, let's talk about the M4 Mac Minis. So once again, I have to mention Mark Gurman. Now, I don't know who this man is, but I'm hearing rumors, or more like I'm making up rumors, that he's Tim Cook's stepbrother or Steve Jobs' illegitimate son, and he's coming back for everything that's owed to him. Either way, he leaked some information about the upcoming M4 Mac Minis on September 1st. And here's what he said. Apple's smaller M4 Mac Mini will have 5 USB-C ports, 3 on the back and 2 on the front, an internal power brick, HDMI, Ethernet, but lose USB-A ports. Units are about to start shipping from overseas suppliers. So basically, the units are already manufactured and being shipped back to Apple over here in the United States. Now, the USB-C port leak is key information, but it doesn't tell the full stories about which ones are Thunderbolt and which ones are regular USB-C. Now, I believe it will be just as it is with the Mac Studios, with the ones on the back being Thunderbolt and the ones on the front being regular USB-C ports. Now, I've tested out the base model M2 Mac Minis and always felt like 2 Thunderbolt ports on the back is just not enough and not worth my hard-earned money. So here's why I said that. In my experience, 1 Thunderbolt port has to go to the secondary monitor. Then 1 has to go to external storage because God knows minimal hard drive space in the base models is just not enough. Now, if it has 1 more Thunderbolt port like these M4 Mac Minis will have, then that could go to one of those USB-C hubs so you could get the USB-A ports. And then you could just use the front USB-Cs for whatever you have to plug in, whatever dongles or whatever the case might be. I think 3 is the sweet spot, and that's why I believe the M2 Mac Mini base models is just not enough. Now, the official reason for the increase is that Apple is now letting you power 3 monitors instead of being limited to 2 like the M1 and M2 Mac Minis. Now, Gurman also said that the M4 Mac Minis will be the smallest computers ever made, but I don't think that will be true. I believe it will be the smallest that Apple has made rather than all computers, because in the PC world, there's stiff competition when it comes to mini PCs. I believe this is the case because of the M4 having an internal power brick. I believe that indicates that it will be the smallest ever made by Apple. If it had an external power brick, then it could have been that Apple TV-like form factor that Gurman speculated it will have. Now, one last rumor that's out there is that Apple is going to increase all Mac computers to 16 gigs of RAM. Now, let me play devil's advocate, and then I'm gonna tell you the flip side on why that's possible. But first, let me just be devil's advocate. I can't see Apple really doing that, going that far with it. Apple is the type of company that they make a huge leap forward in terms of going from Intel to Apple Silicon. They make a huge leap forward, and then they do the bare minimum till it's time to do another huge leap forward. That's the type of company they are. And they get away with it for the simple fact that, first of all, the huge leap forward is already amazing, but the bare minimum always get praised by the Apple fanboys. So all they got to do is really change the color of a Mac Mini, and all the fanboys will sit there and start clapping. Oh my God, Apple, you're the greatest. You're the greatest company that ever existed. So they get away with stuff like that. So I can't really see them going to 16 gigs for the base models. I can see them going to, like, maybe 12 if they do decide to jump it up in specs. Maybe 12, and then later on jumping up to 16 later on. So I really can't see them going all the way to 16, but hey, you never know. I might be wrong. Now, on the flip side of things, why it might be possible is because if the rumors are true, then Apple is trying to not only get people that have Intel Macs to upgrade, but also people that have the first and second generations to upgrade as well. So if you have a M1 Mac Mini, I can't really see you buying an M4 Mac Mini that still has 8 gigs of RAM. But if they have an M4 Mac Mini with 16 gigs of RAM and it's coming at the same price point that the M1 once was, I can then see some people going ahead and taking the plunge and upgrading from the M1 or the M2. So I can see both sides, but Apple being the type of company they are, I don't know. That's up for debate. I don't know. Nonetheless, we have to wait to Apple's October event to find out which rumors will turn out to be true. Now, even though Gurman gets the most things right out of everyone out there, we always have to keep in mind he is not Tim Cook. So let's get to the next topic. So a common question I constantly see online is people asking the question, should I go ahead and buy an M2 Mac Mini right now or wait for the M4 Mac Mini? Hell no, you should not buy an M2 Mac Mini right now. That literally makes 0 sense at this point. You waited this long to make your Mac Mini purchase, you could wait 1 or 2 months more until you can get the official specs of the M4 Mac Mini. Now, the reason for this is, if the rumors are true that Apple is making this the smallest Mac computer they ever came out with, they're increasing the Thunderbolt ports from 2 to 3, and they're making 16 gigs of RAM standard. If that turns out to be true, then that means Apple is revolutionizing the Mac Mini. And what that would do is make people shun the previous generations. So companies that still have the M2s in stock will have to drop the prices on them. They will literally have no choice, because why would someone buy that when they could buy the M4 with more RAM standard? They don't have to pay extra. That's just the situation that we're in, and it will make sense. It will make no sense for people to go and buy the previous generations at that point. And also what that's going to do is make people that's selling the M2 and the M1s on the used market, Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, eBay, etc., they're going to have to drop their prices as well. Now, one of the stores that immediately drop prices when new generations come in is Costco. When the M2s came out, they dropped the base model M1s down to $300. So they're already going to do that. So you already have savings there. But the used market at that point, they're going to have to drop their prices. I personally believe the M2 Mac Mini Pros, which are great computers, I tested them out myself, those prices are going to drop to like around $500 on the used market. I personally believe that $500 to $600. You already can see some people are selling it for $500 to $600 already, but it's, it's here and there. It's people that's really trying to go ahead and get rid of it immediately. You know what I mean? For whatever bill they have to pay, etc., etc. So you're already seeing a glimpse of that on Facebook Marketplace, but you're really going to see that a lot when the M4 Mac Minis come out. I guarantee you. So definitely go ahead and wait, man. You already waited this long. Go ahead and wait. Now, what Apple is doing is they're offering a lot of discounts, especially student discounts. I seen online where someone said that they have like $150 off. They give you $150 gift card, and then the Mac Mini is only $399. So I believe the M4 rumors could possibly be true because Apple is trying very hard to get rid of the M2 stock. So just, be patient and we'll see what happens. Next topic. Okay, so moving along with more Apple news. If you're someone that owns an M1 or M2 Mac Studio and you feel like the internal storage is just not enough, well, guess what? Help is on the way at a very low price as well. So what happened was, if you open up your Mac Studio and you see in there, you have what's called removable storage. So what people did is a company in a foreign country. I forgot what country they're in. What they was able to do is take those NAND modules and reverse engineer it. And then they sent it to a local company in the United States. Well, not a company, a guy that's out here in the United States. And what he was able to do is solder on NAND chips to it. So he was able to get 4 terabytes on those NAND modules. Then he went ahead and installed it on his Mac Studio, and voila, he now had 4 terabytes of storage on his Mac Studio. So what's going to happen is that company only has to do about 1 or 2 tweaks to the NAND module, and then they're going to start mass producing it and sending it out to people all over the world. And then those people will go ahead and solder on those NAND chips on there for you already. And then they'll start selling the whole thing to, people all around the world. So help is definitely on the way. So all you're going to have to do is buy it already whole with the NAND module and the NAND chip already installed on it. And then all you got to do is open up your Mac Studio, remove the modules that you have in there, replace it with these new modules, plug your Mac Studio into a Mac computer and do what's called a firmware reset. I believe the process is called DFU. Don't quote me on that. You do the firmware reset, and then you could go ahead and install Mac OS on there. And by the time you finally, you go through the process of installing, you look on your, about this Mac, you'll have 4 terabytes of storage. Then all you got to do is probably do time machine backup to get your computer back where it needs to be. So you'll now have 4 terabytes of storage for around $500. This is going to be utterly amazing. It's going to take about 2 or 3 months. So you'll probably see it around December time, around Christmas. And you already know what happens when someone does something monumental like this. It only takes so long for people in China to get their hands on it and start reverse engineering their own, and then soldering on the NAND chips on there themselves and start selling it on AliExpress at a cheaper price. So in about a year, you'll start seeing it on AliExpress, Alibaba, and all those type of places for around, I want to say $250, if that. So this is going to be monumental. It's going to be crazy. And it's really going to revitalize the older Mac Studios, the M1 and M2. People are going to start really purchasing them a lot. People will start picking them up on the used market like crazy because it's going to be very easy to just go ahead and update your storage. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how Apple reacts to this once this starts hitting the market. I think Apple already manufactured their M4 Mac Studios, so it's probably too late for them to change anything when it comes to those. I believe those was already manufactured, but it's going to be interesting to see if they start doing that, changing how things are made with the M5. So it's going to be crazy to see. And yeah, this is going to be very exciting. All right, so let's get away from those Apples and hop on over to Intel. So Intel is having some issues right now with their 13th and 14th gen lineup, particularly their i7 and their i9s, but it can affect the rest of the lineup just as well. So what's going on is the problem is voltage regulation. So apparently the 13th and the 14th gen, they're not regulating the voltage correctly. Now, first, the Intel was trying to blame the motherboard manufacturers with the BIOS for the issues that's happening to people. But turns out after some research, it's actually Intel's fault. And they owned up to the mistake, and they went ahead and increased the warranty period from 3 years to 5 years. So that's a good thing that they did right there. They owning up to the mistake and trying to correct the situation as best as they can. So there's some speculation out there that Intel always knew about the situation and they just never said nothing, but who knows at the end of the day. So what I suggest to everyone to do out there, if you have one of these i7s or the i9s 13th or 14th gen, go ahead and RMA out your CPU, or at least try to. Now, the reason I say that is they're saying that, it degrades the CPU over time. It either degrades the CPU over time, or you might have some oxidation on your CPU over time as well. So why take the chance? Go ahead and RMA it. Now, someone was in a Facebook group, and they spoke about RMA in their 13900K, and let you know what they said. They said on Friday last week they shipped their RMA to Intel. They received it on Monday. By Thursday night, it was validated for RMA by Intel, and Intel ended up RMAing the replacement by the end of that day, and they received it that Friday. So the whole thing altogether only took 7 days from the time they shipped it out to the time they received it back. So they're making it pretty simple, especially with the overnight. That's pretty good. Apparently Intel's headquarters, where they having people ship it to, is in Kentucky. Just to let you know, if anyone's out there wondering where the Intel place is. So you're only going to be down 7 days. Go ahead and get that done. Now, I personally have a 13700K. I purchased it from someone locally for a very low price of $150. It was an amazing deal. Now, the reason why they did it, I believe they did it because of these voltage issues. Now, when I got it, I actually experienced some restarts, but back then I didn't really know the reason for it. All this information wasn't out yet. Now, it wasn't something that happened daily. It wasn't something that happened weekly or monthly. I can literally count on one hand how many times it happened to me. And what it really felt like is, when you have like you go out and buy a new GPU, but you have something like, let's say you have a 750 watt power supply, and you go ahead and buy a new GPU, and you're not really paying attention to the power supply requirements to run that GPU. And then all of a sudden you plug in the new GPU and your computer is restarting. That's what it felt like to me when I was experiencing those issues. And I quickly wrote it off as AMD driver problems. So I was just blaming AMD, but apparently it was Intel this whole time. So I bought mine. When I purchased mine from the guy locally, he let me know that he had a warranty with Microcenter. So I went up to Microcenter to get the receipt, because the warranty is always tied to the product, not the individual. So I went ahead and got the receipt. Now, when I was talking to the guy about the whole RMA issue, it was actually me and him having a one-on-one conversation, but it was also 3 or 4 cashiers behind the desk. As soon as I started talking to him about the RMA situation, all those cashiers came over to me. So this is definitely a topic that they are talking about a lot in the meetings for Microcenter. So a lot of people was speculated if you bought it from Microcenter, can you bring it back to Microcenter? No, you cannot. They let me know specifically you have to go through Intel for any RMA situations. Now, the reason why I can bring it back to Microcenter is because, like I said, I have the warranty. So I could bring it back whenever and get, that store credit, and use that store credit for whatever CPU I want to get that's, within that price range of like, $350 or whatever the case might be. So it worked out for me at the end of the day. I went ahead and actually warrantied mine out with Microcenter and got me a little, gift card. I didn't really buy any new CPU because I bought an i5 12600K from someone locally for about $55. It was a real good deal. $55, and that's really all I need to play Apex Legends, to tell you the honest truth. Nonetheless, my suggestion is to go ahead and RMA out your CPU. Don't take the chance. You don't got to do it right now, but then within the next year or two, just go ahead and send it back to them and get a new one. Anyway, next topic. All right, so keeping up with Intel. Intel is on the verge of releasing its new desktop CPUs, which will be called Arrow Lake. Now, the reason why this is interesting is that they're changing the names that they usually use. So no longer it will be the i3, i5, i7, i9. Now it will be the Core Ultra 3, Core Ultra 5, Core Ultra 7, Core Ultra 9. And it's going to be on the LGA 1851 platform rather than the LGA 1700. So this is very exciting news for the simple fact that they're no longer using the regular iGPU. They're no longer using UHD 770, UHD 730, etc., etc. Now it will have, the iGPU will have, it will be an ARC iGPU, and it will have specific cores attached to it. So some will have 4 Xe cores, some will have 3 Xe cores, and some will have 2 Xe cores. This is very exciting because on my channel, I do a lot of Plex transcoding. So as soon as this release, I'm definitely going to pick a few of them up to do some comparisons. And I want to see how it compares to the UHD 770, which is the top of the line integrated graphics that you could get right now on an Intel CPU. I specifically want to see the Core Ultra 5, which has 2 Xe cores, and see how that compares to the UHD 770. It should blow it out the water, but I don't know. We just have to see how it goes. So if you like that type of content, please subscribe to my channel because it's going to be coming to you shortly. All right, guys, so that's it for this tech news video. I was going to talk about the EKWB situation, but I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to leave that for a future video. Now, I'm going to have some iPhone 16 content coming to the channel real soon. How to transfer your data from your old iPhone to your new using your Mac computer. Some cases that's out there, screen protectors that I feel like is best fit for the 16s. And also, I'm going to have a 1-month review. Because like I don't know if I told y'all this earlier in the video, but I'm going from an 8 Plus to a 16 Pro Max. So that's one small step for Apple, one giant leap for me. See what I'm saying? So that's going to be crazy. Look out for my Pro Max review. I was too late to do it, get it out early, but after 1 month, I'm gonna put one up. So it is what it is. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back to y'all in a future video. And last but not least, may the good news be yours.